To Athens for the 79th Tour of Italy. I'm Phil Liggett. As always, lovely to have you along. 1996, a special year on the Italian racing calendar as their great tour moves across to Greece for its start. And the reason? Well, the centenary of the modern Olympiad, first held in Athens in 1896. A country famed for its ancient buildings and the Acropolis, and now for the start of the Tour of Italy. And there are 162 riders based on 18 teams. This first stage of 170 kilometres is a circuit based on Athens. No real challenge for the climbers today. Those, of course, will come later, where there are major mountains on 9 stages of this tour. In all, the race totalling 4,000 kilometres. There's the high altitude at the left of our picture, a mere 280 metres today for the field as they prepare to roll away. Everybody, in fact, talking about Abraham Olano after his second place in the Tour of Spain last year and, of course, his World Championship as the man to beat. There's one man who might contest it in the little blue cap there, Evgeny Berzin, who won this race in 1994 and will be a real favourite in the upcoming Tour de France as well. A breakaway forming today, and 3 riders of the same team have gone clear here. There are Aki men, Andrea Teteriuk of Kazakhstan, and the 2 Italians, Gianluca Guerini and Denis Zanetta. Taking advantage of a lot of crashes already in the race today, and it's a lead of 1 minute and 50 seconds over the complete field. Well, not quite, because here is a crash here. We're showing it in slow motion. It's just happened, in fact. It's caused by a burst water main. You can see the wet roads, and the riders trying to get away. The rider lying down on the right is Marcel Wust in the red. And what bad luck this rider has. It looks to me as though Marcel is out of the race. He also abandoned the tour after a crash in the first tour he rode back in 1992. And was the double stage winner in the Tour du Pont a couple of weeks ago and was bang on form. That really is bad luck for the young man there from the MX Honda team, the German rider, always a jolly rider as well. And this breakaway here, they want to know a little bit more about what's going on, but the field are closing in. The rider shouting at us here is Denis Zanetta. And this is a trip to the back of the field here because the rider taking a bit of service here, Massimo Strazza. Also a crash victim, and he's hardly back with the race. There's another one. Well, they're saying a number of the accidents are caused by the bad roads, but you have to say, looking at this picture here, these roads don't look too bad at all. A touch of wheels, a moment's inattention, first day nerves, perhaps. But again, more riders are on the ground, and it looks as though more riders out of the race. Already, 3 riders have officially abandoned because of the crashes. Now it looks as though Secchiari is another man, and that's going to make it 4 riders out of the tour on the very first stage here in Greece. The field have all been swept up. It's going to be a sprinter's chance again, and this is Uchikov. He was in fact just ahead of the field, but they're being brought to heel right on the line, and Uchikov, a former stage winner in the Tour of France, is caught, and now the sprinters are going to go. The sprinters opening up for the line now. The Gavi's rider is Stefano Zanini, but he's been swept aside now as Roslotto starts on the far right. But look at Martinello. Martinello, without his big sprinter Cipollini, is going to have a go on the left of the picture. Martinello, the double world champion on the track in Colombia a year ago. He's going to get his victory in the Tour of Italy, and that means he will also be the first wearer of the Maglia Rosa, and that is what every rider wants, and this is how he did it. I must say, a tremendous show of power here from Martinello. He must have been given a bit of a clean hand from his team leader today, Cipollini, who wasn't in the result at all. Martinello winning over Fabrizio Guidi and Stefano Zanini, Zbigniew Spruk. So Martinello, the first leader of the Giro d'Italia. And thanks to the bonuses out on the course, Martinello is 4 seconds in front of Guidi, and Contrini is in 3rd place. Now we're moving on to stage 2. This is the beautiful fishing town here of Navpatkos, and this is the finishing town of stage number 2. The ride today, some 230 plus kilometres. The riders coming away from Elefsina, and there are 157 of them left, having lost a number of riders yesterday in all of those crashes. No challenger except the climb in the middle, which is over 2,400 feet, 880 metres. But the rides themselves not rising to the challenge at all today. The race has hardly turned a pedal in anger as we pick up the action now 5 kilometres from the finish. The Gavi's team here trying to set up the sprint for their man, Stefano Zanini, to see if he can take over the Maglia Rosa. from Silvio Martinello. And by the way, Martinello has said overnight that in fact Mario Cipollini, his team leader, gave him a free hand yesterday to win the stage because Cipollini was not feeling too good at all. Now look at the rush here now by virtually the whole of the Gay Viz team here to try and get Zanini into pink. And there's plenty of riders willing to bring other teams up. We can see down there the team of Amora e Vita. They've got a very good sprinter on that team, Glenn Magnusson. If you saw the Tour du Pont, you may remember he was riding exceptionally well there. First year pro, champion of Sweden. And now again, Polti trying to lead out their sprinter, who is Giovanni Lombardi, who 4 years ago in the Olympic Games in Barcelona picked up the points title, but he's not going to get onto the back wheel. It doesn't look like the lead-out man here. And there's the blue jersey of Stefano Zanini, and Zanini has been beaten on the line, and the man who's got through there, let's look at it again, is Glenn Magnusson, who had a perfect lead-out right into the centre of our picture, and that is going to put him right on the wanted list for Sweden for the Olympic Games for sure. His first win as a pro, he's a great sprinter, and today was his day, right?
Yeah. Normally I'm quite good in sprint, so I feel I always feel when I come to the finish line I have a good chance, and I took the chance today.
Indeed he did. Everybody finishing the same time. Zanini second, and having to be content with the runner-up spots at the moment. Edo of Spain, the little sprinter there, he got third. And overall, Martinello keeps the pink jersey. 4 seconds still his advantage over Zanini. 6 now over Magnusson. And all of the riders on top of the leaderboard, not surprisingly perhaps regarded as sprinters here, but today's a bit hilly. The last stage in Greece, 194 riders. The riders going from Masolonghi to Ioannina. And there have been a number of skirmishes today, but basically the hot weather has caused the majority of the riders to be brought back into the fold. There's Martinello in the pink jersey. Cipollini feeling a little bit better perhaps, now taking closer order near the front. The green jersey here led by the early King of the Mountains leader Fabio Fontinelli, and their confirmation of a break at 2 minutes 7 seconds up. Here they are, Nicola Micheli in the front, and Daniel Contrini of the Brescia team, he's with him as well. Contrini, a new pro, and 25-year-old Micheli from Sella Italia. But the majority of the hills all coming in the last 60 kilometres, 38 miles of the race. So there's Angel Camargo, the Colombian on the Sella Italia team, trying to grab an express train because they're bringing back his leader on the day at least, and the field behind keeping very close order as well. It could well go down to a bunch sprint once again here if they can get over these hills. Martinello paying particular attention to the fact that on a day when he was expected to lose his overall lead, he might well hang on to it. But there we see coming back Contrini from Bashiliat, so he's back in the fold, and Michela isn't going to be far behind him. Here is Micheli, and there is the main field closing in very rapidly indeed. A brave attempt indeed, a lot of publicity, but that's about where it ends today for him. The field are now beginning to warm up for King of the Mountain points. Fontinelli in third place. Looks like an attack too going by the good old favourite from Italy, Claudio Chiappucci. He's always had a great love affair with the Tour of Italy, but he's still waiting for the big day to arrive. Perhaps having an early shot at leading the King of the Mountains here. Claudio Chiappucci, the steepest climb of the race so far on day 3 of the Tour. Remember, tonight it's off to the mainland of Italy, and then they say the racing will really commence. 4th in the Tour of Italy last year, but he is a regular in the top 6 these past years. Trying to find his rhythm a little bit, keeping the big chain wheel rolling on what is a very good main road climb. And maximum points going to go to Claudio Chiappucci here as he gets under the banner. He's being chased all the way to the line though by one more rider, can't quite get onto him. So I wonder if Claudio Chiappucci is going to be a big part of this year's race. Sergei Uzlamin, 111th overall. Now putting in a determined attack, but he's done it with 12 kilometres to go on a long straight road. It's not ideal conditions to go clear of the field, and there's a lot of riders in this race now feeling that it will go down to a bunch sprint. There's a small climb up to the finish of 1 kilometre, but it's not really a tough climb for these riders. And in fact, Uzlamin has been joined now by David Castelotto of Scrigno, So it's now down to the teams behind to start chasing. The gap is just 16 seconds and it's not that far to go. And again, the Polti team tried to bring the race back. And as we switch now, Gay Viz 2. Remember that Stefano Zanini is still looking for the stage win, and time is running out if this man wants to be the overall leader of the Tour of Italy. There he is in the mauve jersey, and coming up to his shoulder now, the pink jersey of race leader Martinello. And Silvio Martinello, he really has sharpened his legs for this race. The kilometre up to the finish now. Little bit of a drag, but he hasn't done too much damage to the strong men now, as Polti again tried to get Lombardi to the front. Lombardi is tucked in about third place. He's now trying to come through, but also there is Stefano Zanini. Zanini's in a great position now. He's had a third and a second so far. Zanini on the left. Zanini comes through. It looks like he's got the victory now. He's being challenged by Lombardi to the line. It's a long, long way, slightly uphill here, and I think Zanini's going to lose it. He struggled to the line, and he's eased too soon. In fact, Giovanni Lombardi, watch this. Lombardi, it just seems though Zanini seized up as he approached the line, shoulder to shoulder, as Giovanni Lombardi takes him right on the line, gets the victory. Martinello gets third. This is going to be quite a shuffling of the overall classification, but the victory goes here to Giovanni Lombardi. The sprinters are really having their day so far for the first 3 days here in Greece, all going down to sprinters. After Martinello and Magnussen, we've now got Lombardi. And what about Zanini? 2 seconds and a third place to his credit now. So there's the result. Lombardi, the winner, almost 5 hours in the saddle today. In the end, a bunch sprint. Zanini gets second. As a result, Zanini, the new leader of the Giro d'Italia, same time as Martinello, though split on points, as we move on now to stage number 4. And this 147 kilometres, the rest day has passed by, many of them travelling a 9-hour boat journey from Greece across to Italy. The rides, of course, coming by aeroplane straight after the previous stage. Now rolling out to do 4 laps of what was partially the World Championship circuit here in Ostuni back in 1976. And the Gawies riders out for a day of protection, perhaps, because Stefano Zanini, after 2 second places and a third place, is the leader of the Tour on the same time as Silvio Martinello. And as expected, a lot of attacks have come to nothing today as the riders have ripped around this circuit into the last kilometre. Nobody has succeeded in going away. We have seen people like Berzin and Ugrumov attack, but they've all come back into the fold. And a late attack here now, and it looks as though it's coming from Mario Mazzoni of the Roslotto team, trying to finish off with a result for them, but they're going to leave it late, and they're winding up now. It looks to me as though Cipollini might be finding his legs too. He's got the wheel of his teammate Martinello in that mauve jersey. Cipollino, Martinello, the 2 Sayoko riders are coming right up to the line together, and this time Cippo gets it. Mario Cipollini, that's his first stage win of this year's Tour, and in all his 13th stage win of the Giro d'Italia since he started riding it back in 1990. That's how he did it, and when he does come to the line first, he does make it look so easy. Cipollini beating Martinello, his teammate, Guidi taking third place, and overall now it is Silvio Martinello who reclaims the Maglia Rosa, and so be it, there's still not much time in it. And so this opening week still staying the domain of the sprinters, and the pink jersey going back, rather surprisingly perhaps, to Silvio Martinello. We're now heading out onto stage number 5, 193 kilometres. We continue through this beautiful country, which is steeped in Roman remains. Capocolana, as the riders now head away from Metaponto down to Cotone, running down in effect the instep of the heel of Italy as the race continues its journey towards the southwest of the country. You can't get it much flatter than that, can you? And this man should enjoy his day. Gianni Bugno, the champion of Italy, yet to feature in this year's Giro d'Italia. I wonder how long he's going to stay quiet. The race itself throughout the day has been a quiet one, just on 5 hours of racing. The whole field now swinging in towards the finish, not surprisingly, of course, with the flat stage like it was. And again, a chance now for Martinello to increase his overall lead. He's had a good day in the sprints out on the course. He's increased his overall lead slightly over Stefano Zanini, and now he's got a chance of victory here. He's number 3 in line, as once again Gawies looking over there to see where Zanini is to try and help him out of it. But Giovanni Lombardi now licking his lips once more after a stage win. He's right there at the front as well. And this is going to be a battle royale, because there you have Lombardi on the left of our picture, and going for gold now as he's got Martinello on his wheel, and behind Martinello is the little Kelme rider, Angay Ido. Ido going off to the left. It looks as though Ido might land this one. The little Spanish sprinter hits the line. Ido gets it. And he finishes just in front of Massimo Strazza, but here's the hero of the day riding behind. Look at that right arm just propped up on the handlebar, and this rider is Gianluca Bortolami, a suspected broken right elbow after a crash midway through the stage. What courage! He's continued to the finish, but he's out of the Tour. And for this man, the other end of the spectrum, the happiest day for Angel Ido. He gets the best ever stage victory of his career, and indeed his first for 2 years ahead of Strazza and Martinello. Overall, no change. Martinello now 16 seconds ahead of Stefano Zanini as we move on to stage number 6. And this one is 179 kilometres, the biggest climb so far, officially a mountain day. And look at this, the biggest climb at 1,426 metres, approximately midway through the race. That's all behind us now as we join the action here at Taverna, with just on 60 kilometres left to go to the finish. There's been plenty of attacking, but at the moment the race is more or less under control, with the rider in the pink jersey still Silvio Martinello. So despite the mountains, a man that doesn't like the mountains, a double world track champion, is still in with a shout today, retaining that pink leader's jersey. Paneria, with the full list of riders, all 9 of them, it looks as though they've got them at the front here, trying to reel in the breakaways. Zbigniew Spruk is the man at the head, setting the pace here. Little Belly also tucked in nicely. And now we're looking here at the breakaway. Denis Zanetti, the rider, has not given up at trying to get away. He's really at his strongest on the climbs. And the Aki rider pushing on the pace here. The small climbs towards the finish, but they're absolutely ideal for springboards. And there is, by the way, a rather nasty little climb up to the finishing line itself. And a counter-attack here coming from Bo Larsen, and he's being followed too by Sergei Uchikov. And the third rider there looks like it's Gabriele Massaglia. The Italians always anxious to get into the thick of the action. There's the confirmation of the group of Bo Larsen. Another new professional from the strong Danish setup. Klaus Moller also rides here in the Giro d'Italia, part of the famous Danish World Championship amateur team of a couple of years ago. All finding the way through the pro ranks now. And slowly but surely the whole field is regrouped here. Still they're searching a way to crack this field. Another 3 riders trying to pull away. The little rider there, Fabrizio Bontempi in the blue jersey. No relation, by the way, to the now retired Guido Bontempi, as this little group also tries to pull away from the field. Bontempi still itching to get his hands on the Maglia Rosa before time runs out for him. The rider tucked in at the back there is Roncasio Gonzalez, the Colombian climber. So he knows his course well, because this could suit him, but there are still plenty of counterattacks. They're all together. That, I think, it was Roberto Petito who's just gone clear. And another very strong attack. So Saiko launching a number of attacks here. It is Petito, but he's got a long climb up to the finish, but you've got to have a go. And Petito is going to have to really struggle now to keep his rhythm in and out of the saddle. There's no more relaxing all the way up to the finishing climb. 3 more riders trying to open a little bit of a gap at the back of the field, but they too looking over the shoulders and not too certain of what is going on. Petito worried. He knows the gap is virtually nil, but he can't catch sight of the peloton because they're around the bends on this twisting climb up to the finish. We can have a look though, and there's 1 rider coming at him. And the way he's dancing on those pedals is the little Frenchman Pascal Hervé from Festina, who's trying to get across. And just look at the gap opening now. The pink jersey is cracked on the long climb. He has no liking for the mountains. And those few seconds lead overall are sailing in the wind now. And this man is flying in it, because Pascal Hervé is heading up towards the back wheel of Petito. Petito, don't look over his shoulder now, because Hervé, the rider who won a stage of the Tour du Pont at Beach Mountain, and that climb is a little bit steeper than this one, I think, in the United States. But Pascal Hervé having his best ever season. And so Hervé got the sights of Petito. He's still got the time. There's the kilometre banner to come. Now, if he times it to absolute perfection, he should catch up with the lead about 500 metres out, and then maybe to go by him straight away before Petito can get on his wheel. Huge crowds we approach the line now, but time beginning to run out as well for Pascal Hervé as the counter moves coming from the field. There's not a lot of time gap spread right across the field now. We're only looking at something like 12 to 15 seconds from the main field up to Petito. So Hervé is living a very fragile lifestyle in between the two as he continues his rhythm up the climb. Kicks again. He must be very, very close now to Petito. He knows a pink jersey could wait for him at the top because he may not know it but could suspect it, that the overall leader of the Tour, Martinello, is now in big trouble. And he's got him. He's got him, and he's got him only a few hundred metres from the line. A big kick from Petito, and Petito may have the strength. Petito, no, he's gone. Petito made the big effort and realised that Pascal Hervé was not going to slow down. And Hervé now sprinting to a clear victory, and only the clock will decide whether he gets the Maglia Rosa. But there's no doubt about the stage victory and the continuing great season of Pascal Hervé. The man who finished second overall, a clear second overall behind Lance Armstrong in the Tour du Pont, continues his good form here in the Tour of Italy. Victory for the Frenchman, Pascal Hervé. The time will soon tell us whether or not he gets the overall leader's jersey. Here's the sprint now for third place, and it looks as though Casagrande gets it, so a little bit of appearance there by one of the pre-race favourites, Francesco Casagrande. He comes home in third place, and there is the pink jersey of Martinello losing time today. So Pascal Hervé on the podium. He's just been told as well, yes, he is the new leader by 6 seconds over Guidi in the Giro d'Italia, the first ever pink jersey for him, and third place overall Petito, who finished second on this stage. And the 31 years old Pascal Hervé of France is going to feel very fragile again today because only 24 seconds cover the top 10 riders in the overall classification as we now head on stage 7 of 164 kilometres to the mountain top finish of Monte Sereno. High up in the Sila Mountains, it's a ski station. It climbs up to 1,546 metres, and as you can see, the weather conditions up there are a little bit grim. This man has been the hero of the day, Maurizio Di Pasquale. He's had a lead of 14 minutes, but now it looks as though the field is starting to wind him in. He's down to 7 minutes as we head up towards the final climb of the day. The peloton is more or less together. The Festina team have had a tough day, though. They've been trying desperately to control this race, and they've wasted a lot of energy. There's the leader, Pascal Hervé. Turned professional very late in his career, but he's making up for it now. He's having a marvellous season. Well, the course should suit him, but there are so many places for attacks to come from with so many small time gaps, even the climbers included, all around him. And the steady climb now, this is the finishing climb. It goes on and on quite literally. They've wiped out, in fact, Di Pasquale, caught 8 kilometres from the summit. And now it's a free-for-all here with a constant number of counter-attacks coming all of the time. Very prominent at the front too. The Polti riders are up here too. And this perhaps the most important attack of the Giro so far without the pink jersey, because they've got Tonkov, Ugrimov, Berzin, Rebellin are all up here. There's Ugrimov in the centre of our picture. He's sporting his new colours of Roslotto. Making his climb steady, but no sign at all of Hervé, so they've worked him over good and proper on the climb today. His teammates have also dropped away from the picture. And little David Rebellin here digging very, very deep indeed as he comes up towards the line. He started the sprint very quickly. Faustini has gone away, and also coming up at the back is Pavel Tonkov, the other Russian rider. So Tonkov in third place, and in fact getting second as Rebellin takes the stage. So David Rebellin, a new man on the block, gets the stage victory. And he was sixth, remember, in Liège-Bastogne-Liège this year. And judging by the enormous gaps, there's still no sign of Hervé. There's Berzin. He's also conceded time as he comes over the line. And there is the exhausted David Rebellin of Polti. Only 4.5 hours the stage today, but it's been a tough one, just over 100 miles. He's being congratulated because he is the new leader of the Giro d'Italia. And this is how the little climber did it. Those rather thin-looking legs, finding a lot of power in the sprint at the top of Monte Sereno. And dropping away from the action, slowly but surely, Faustini, and coming up on him, Pavel Tonkov, the Russian rider who once won a stage of the British Milk Race in pouring rain in the city of Nottingham. Rebellin gets the stage. And now how about this? Look at the time gap, 11 minutes and 4 seconds and counting. And the champion of Italy, Gianni Bugno, certainly out of any high finish in this year's Giro d'Italia. Happy days, though, for David Rebellin. He becomes the new leader of the Giro. His overall lead will be 4 seconds over Pavel Tonkov, and Faustini will be third, 8 seconds back. Leonardo Pipoli, he's a good climber, up to fourth, and Ugrimov now in the frame in fifth. And with no more mountains until tomorrow, the race now heading for Naples, one of Italy's most famous cities, in beautiful conditions, and it should be a day for the sprinters. This stage of 135 kilometres, we're now running up the coast of the Mediterranean as we head up to Naples via Pompey. There you are, look, it's all downhill today, just a small mountain at the start, and the riders have gone over that, and they're all very, very much together. New race leader, David Rebellin, stalking the field here, letting everybody know he's around. He comes up to the shoulder there of Claudio Chiappucci on the far side. The race favourite, perhaps, Evgeny Berzin, along with Abraham Olano. We can move on to the action now, and a breakaway is formed, and in this breakaway is Claudio Chiappucci, the rider who has always dreamed one day of wearing the Maglia Rosa. Well, he might do something about it. He's in this breakaway with Marco Salagari, and the other rider is Andrea Noe, number 8. And the gap is growing overnight, 1 minute 11 seconds, the gap between Chiappucci and Rebellin, and look at that, 1 minute 20 seconds. So he's got the overall lead on the road, and that might keep him going. Just 13 kilometres left to go to the finish. I'm not surprised, in fact, that Chiappucci is driving the race, but coming up from the back here is Marco Milesi. And a little glance over the shoulder there by Noe. We'll see Milesi join them, but in fact the main field are closing in. There's the same Archie's luck, and they're very, very close together indeed. So I think dreams of pink are out, but there's still a chance of the stage win. There's now 4 riders up front. Milesi is tagged on to the back of them, so we've got Marco Salagari, Chiappucci, Andrea Noe and Marco Milesi. Massive crowds here as we race into Naples for the finish, but the field are not that far behind. In fact, you can see them, look, there they are. As the attacks, the last gasp attacks begin now, but I don't think there's any hope at all because the field are thundering down the street here towards the finish. This is going to be another day when the sprinters feel they've got to have it, and that's why the Amore Vita team are working so hard. They're trying to set up Glenn Magnusson, who won, remember, the second stage of this race when we were over in Greece at Napakos. But the field gathering again at the front. They're virtually wiping out of the breakaway. In fact, they've wiped them out now because this is Seiko at the front. And they're looking to their 2 top sprinters. Martinello's in there in the mauve jersey, but also there, the tall man, the fastest self-proclaimed sprinter in the world. He's right on the inside of our picture, Mario Cipollini. He's looking for his second stage win. He says, I only come here to win stages. If I can't win them, there's no point in staying. Racing down the front here now in Naples. He's running in 3rd place at the moment. He's on the wheel of Silvio Martinello. Martinello, twice the wearer of the Maglia Rosa on separate occasions in this tour. Now racing for the time bonuses once more to the line. There's still a battle for seconds among the sprinters here now as they start to go. In fact, Angle has sat up and looked at his gears if he's got a problem and gone away from it. But Cipollini has no such problems. Martinello on the barriers, Cipollini on the left. Cipollini gets it. I think even our cameraman was fooled there because he closed the camera in on Martinello, but in fact it was the teammate of Martinello and the Seiko captain right on the right of our picture as we look down here, who wins the stage, Mario Cipollini. A lot of speed off Big Mario, gets him his second stage win of this year's Giro. And right behind him was Guidi, Lombardi. Martinello, I think, will be confirmed in 4th place. This rider, once he hits the front, there's no getting round him at all. He makes Lombardi look oh so slow, and for him, his second stage victory of the Giro d'Italia, and that is what he came here for and what he does best. But overall, there is no change at all. That's the stage result. Cipollini ahead of the sprinters today. Abdu Japarov getting there this time in 5th place, and Baffet in 6th. Overall, Rebellin keeps his 4 seconds lead over Tonkov and 8 seconds over Faustini. So it still remains very close to the top, and a few more hills today as we go on to stage number 9. Heading away from Naples now, we go north up the coast of the Mediterranean, then we turn inland, skirting Rome and heading to the finish here at Fiuggi, a total distance of 184 kilometres. A nervous day indeed for young David Rebellin. He looks a solid leader so far, and he's got some good riders on the Polti team, quite capable of riding strongly in the mountains with him. One climb in the middle for the King of the Mountains, the Intergiro, coming at just about 19 kilometres, and then it's all go for the finish. And the breakaway of the day, 2 young professional riders, Contrini and Traversoni, trying to soften up the rest of the field and grab a little bit of the limelight. It's been a long breakaway for these riders, but the counterattacks are coming now, not surprisingly from the Aki team, who are taking a lot of encouragement from the fine riding from Denis Sinetta. Konichev setting the pace, Mauro Bettin and Roberto Petito, the rider who finished second to Pascal Hervé on stage 6. He's sitting now at the back of the group. Maybe he'll get more luck this time, because here comes the main field. Still a little bit of hesitation here as they try to organise the counter-attack. The Paneria team looking particularly good as they put 3 or 4 riders back at the front of this group. The whole field having wiped out the rest of the breakaways are all together down there now. And the motorcycles at the front waiting for the attack that might decide at the day's stage as they climb up now towards the finish at Fiuggi. And this looks like Enrico Zaina, who's starting to go clear the field. A counter-attack coming from Paneria. Carrera without, of course, Marco Pantani, who incidentally did the opening titles to the international television coverage. He was actually singing at the top of every day's programme of this year's Tour of Italy, and I can tell you we want to see him back racing because he's not a very good singer. Well, this is still Zaina trying to get clear of the field, but they're really wrestling with the fact they're not going to let him go, and it looks as though there's a counter move here coming from Alexander Gonchenkov, the Russian rider. Well, he must know these roads quite well. He finished second in Tirreno Adriatico here this year. He's also had a stage victory in the Tour of Romandy, so Gonchenkov having a great season. He's a man that is promising much, and he's just starting to deliver this year now. And this is Belli coming across from the Paneria team. Now, if those 3 can get together, we have a real substance of a good breakaway. Oh, and look at this. Gonchenkov has just come across to Zaina, and he's got a flat back tyre. Well, that's bad news, not just for Gonchenkov, but I think also for Zaina, because the main field are around about 30 seconds behind. Here they are. Not quite as many as there were at the start of the climb, but even so, a very, very big pack indeed. David Rebellin is in this group and will feel a little bit concerned about Zaina, who started the day just 29 seconds behind overall. He's got more than that back at the minute. So Zaina is the race leader on the road. The Festinas are also launching a counter-attack. This is Gunnar Lauke from Festina. And Gonchenkov had no option really, because the gap wasn't big enough. He surrendered to go back into the field, and that really is bad luck, leaving Zaina now with a very slim hope of surviving to the end. He usually manages a stage win in the Giro d'Italia at some point. He got one last year, Il Coccio, and he's still got 3 kilometres to hang out off the front of this group. I don't think there's any chance in taking over the pink, because the gap is coming down, and really the stage win is all he can hope for. The counter-attacks coming from the group once again. Surprisingly not from the Polti riders, and that must indicate that perhaps David Rebellin has had a tough day today controlling this race. And he's got to be worried about Zaina. Zaina now can think only of victory, and then the clock will tell us whether he's in the pink or not, and I doubt that. The camera waiting to see if anybody comes round this corner, so the gap must be pretty close down to being shut down altogether. And here is the second rider on the course. And this is Guidi, who's gone through for the Scrigno team. Then the main pack just behind, Fabrizio Guidi, who continues to progress in this year's Giro d'Italia and keeps a high overall position. And look at the way they've closed in on everybody. And in fact, Zaina is just about going to hang on to the finish, but it's going to be touch and go. He'll get his stage win. He was 7th overall in last year's Giro, by the way. But now as he comes up to the line, a stage win will be his for sure, but I don't think there'll be a pink jersey. 29 seconds out. He gets a 12-second bonus for the victory, and the gap is closing all of the time behind. The pink jersey Rebellin now at the front of that group, trying to reduce the gap as much as possible. He won't get a bonus, though, as he gets pushed away into the pack. Berzin trying to get in on the action. That little blue jersey there, and Guidi again chasing. And Zaina gets the stage victory. And a very good average speed for the day of nearly 42 kilometres an hour. Behind comes Guidi. He gets the second place, 4 seconds back officially. Zbigniew from Paneria, he takes the third place. And David Rebellin, he actually finishes with that pink jersey in 4th place. What would have happened, though, to Zaina if Gonchenkov had not punctured? He may well have got his hands on this jersey, which stays on the shoulders of David Rebellin. I'm not surprised he's smiling, the 24-year-old who turned pro at 20 years of age. He still leads by 4 seconds over Tonkov, 8 seconds Faustini. Zaina now up into 4th place. The riders now facing their 10th stage as we head out of Arezzo and head for Prato. And we're heading now into northern Italy, into Tuscany. The region famous for its famous son, Mario Cipollini, but he may not like the route today because it is a little bit hilly and it's going to be a tough one for the sprinters to control. Still in that pink jersey, David Rebellin, and each day he's finding his team is under pressure. There's the hills, one coming sort of midway through the stage, and a nasty little climb around Prato. We go through Prato, in fact, and then out onto a little hill the rider's referring to as the Wall, and then we go back down to the finish in Prato itself. Beautiful scenery here, plenty of rain in northern Italy, but the sun is out today and the grass very lush indeed. And it has been a good attacking day throughout the stage. This is the little leading group led here by Marco della Vedova, who's trying to get a sortie underway, and a good lead at the moment over the field. This is where we are at Vetta Le Crocchi, and 67 kilometres still remain. Also in this group we've got Dmitry Konishev. Steady climbing here being done, and the gap, well, it's going to be a little bit of a risk as to whether they will survive the whole escape. There's nobody that will affect the overall lead yet of David Rebellin, who's going to take his time in bringing back this group, I think. And the Amore Vita rider there is Riccardo Focconi. It's only a small team, Amore Vita, but they do manage to get into the frame in every Tour of Italy with one rider or another. They've had a stage win, got them off to a good start with Glenn Magnussen, who had a long breakaway earlier on by Maurizio Di Pasquale. The gap is now 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The main field still taking things quite easy. They'll probably wait for the first passage through Prato before trying to pick up the leaders. Here comes Della Vedova. One or two of the other names in the breakaway. Watch out for Piccoli. The Casagrande, by the way, is not Francesco, but Filippo, his younger brother. And Vedova, even managing to find himself a little smile here as he makes his way up the climb. No thanks to the drink. Riders very rarely take the offer of drinks from the crowd because you never know, there's always the risk of picking up a little bit of contaminated water. They only like to take the drinks supplied directly to them from their directors sportifs. And the pink jersey, and not surprisingly all of the Polti team now trying to control the escapes. They're closing in at 45 kilometres to go. Here's the back view of the breakaway as they concentrate on the small Intergiro sprint for a handful of time bonuses. But the main field now heading towards the completion of the first visit to the finish town here at Prato in Tuscany, and then the riders will head out onto the big climb. And on this big climb, it is a little bit of a brute. I think we should see the counter-attacks. Now onto the climb itself, and the Aki riders getting themselves into the thick of the action again. They've had a good tour so far. Denis Zanet is the man who has been doing much of the work for them. The 25-year-old who turned pro only last year. And the gap tumbling down now. Abraham Olano, the world champion. We haven't seen too much of him yet, riding on the right of our picture in his world championship jersey, right on the wheel there of the leader of the Tour. Now you get some idea of the gradients as they grind around this corner. It looks to me as though it's something like 25% on that bend. Paneria, thinking perhaps of Pavel Tonkov. They're setting the pace at the front. Good chance to test out the strong men in this year's Giro d'Italia as the big heads of state get themselves to the front. Paneria are riding very, very strongly as a team. There's the climb, sticking off to our right. Shignano. And this is the man who's now in the lead here. And this is Alexander Gonchenkov, who's got himself to the front. So they've wiped out the breakaway. And Gonchenkov, the rider who punctured yesterday when he had a real shot at the win with Zanina rather. And now in the lead. A little group starting to get clear. This race is split wide open, and heading the charge there, the world champion Abraham Olano. There he is down there, setting the pace. It looks as though we may well have the other Roslotto star right on his wheel, and that's Pyotr Ugramov. The pink jersey's done well to latch on the back. Olano, Ugramov. This is Pascal Hervé. So there's some good riders got themselves to the front today. A little bit of a sort out amongst the senior citizens, I think. Pascal Hervé, who briefly held the lead, and I thought he would have held the lead for quite a few days. He found the going just that little bit too tough. Number 14 is Stefano Faustini, the other star of the Aki team. He's tagged onto the back. He's on the wheel of Claudio Chiappucci. This is a nice little select group here, trying to grab a few seconds on the day. As it comes up towards the finish, though, one rider slipped them, and he's from the group into the last kilometre. It looks as though it might be Massi of the Refin team. Rodolfo Massi, well, if he wins this, it'll be a surprise. He's been a pro for the best part of 10 years. He's just hanging off the front of what is a select breakaway group. Most of the favourites are in it. But Rodolfo Massi taking advantage perhaps of the infighting, coming up to the line now. He will get the stage win, almost certainly the finest win of his career, as the sprint starts behind now. But it looks as though Zaina's in on the sprint too. Gonchenkov, Farah's in, they're all here. Giorgio Furlan is getting himself up to the front. Alongside him too is Claudio Chiappucci and Casagrande. Very close indeed as Massi takes the victory a few seconds in front. I think Furlan got it. This is the overall situation after that sprint. Rebelan, Tonkov, Faustini, no change at all overall. Furlan did get the sprint and Casagrande got third. Chiappucci was fourth. No change though in the overall classification. And so the riders now are turning back towards the coast as we leave Prato and head out to Marina di Massa. And there is a day for the sprinters if I've ever seen one. There's just one small climb towards the end, and the pack, as always, coming down together, enjoying a very hot day here on the west coast of northern Italy. And after a long breakaway by Fabiano Fontanelli, the race has come all back together again. Fontanelli, by the way, the king of the mountain since this race started in Athens. His lead wiped out approaching the finish, and now we have just a bunch sprint. And now can Mario Cipollini take his third stage win of the Tour? He will think he can. He's tucked right in on the inside of the barriers here. And in fact, Cipollini now moving slightly off the barriers. Martinello is in fourth or fifth place trying to find his way through, but it's all too late. His team captain gets his third stage win of the Giro d'Italia. So Mario Cipollini, when he goes, he really does go. This is third stage win of the Giro, and a clear win indeed. He comes right ahead here on the line of the little demon sprinter going through on the inside of the barriers there. Jamaluddin Abdu-Japarov and Silvio Martinello just about hangs on there to third place. Denis Zanetta of Aki was the rider in the yellow who got wiped out and pushed back into fourth. But Mario Cipollini gets stage win number 3 ahead of Abdu-Japarov and Martinello. David Rebelan, well, an untroubled day once he brought back Fontanelli, and so he keeps the leader's pink jersey by that same 4 seconds over Tonkov, and once again, no change at all overall. So the sun continues, and without a view like this, well, it wouldn't be Italy, would it? As everybody enjoys the sea here and the warm sunshine and has fun, but the Tour of Italy and the professional bike riders, they have to continue their journey now, which is heading towards France. The riders taking them from Ula to Loano, 195 kilometres, right around the coast. Just one little climb soon after the start, and then a nice view of the sea all the way through to the finish. We're picking up the race here at 38 kilometres to go, and the breakaway in fact in progress, which started after only the second kilometre today. Fabrizio Guidi started the break. He was joined by Fabiano Fontanelli, and we've got Denis Zanetta here, Gabriella Misaglia. That's the rider looking for some more action here and trying to draw the best out of them, because the breakaway has dropped Bruno Boscard in, and the other rider of the 5 here is David Casarotto. The gap at one stage when they went through Genoa was 11.5 minutes, so that gave them the leadership on the road. and indeed a number of the high placings in the overall classification. But it's come tumbling down a bit now, and in fact it's leaving a fairly pleasant day for the race leader, because he seems to have the race under control. It's all a question of who will win the stage. Fontanelli, remember, yesterday had the misfortune to flat just before the finish when he would have won the stage. Today he has another shot at it now. The Saiko boys and Skriniar working hard at the front of the group, but this will decide the day, and a breakaway which has lasted for much of the 195 kilometres. And Zanetta there tightening up his toe straps, are probably bolting down his shoes these days as he rides second from the end, getting ready for the sprint. But also in this group, the man who started the whole breakaway, what a powerhouse, Fabrizio Guidi, who has been taking part in the sprints for most of this race, now had a go today at the long one. And the attacks now as they start to dice for the position at the front. Fontanelli in that green King of the Mountains jersey is watching everything. Misaglia is the rider at the back for Paneria. Zanetti is number 19. Casarotto is the Skriniar rider. And it looks as though Fontanelli's got himself in a nice position. Followed now by Casarotto, who gets a good look at from Fontanelli, who wants somebody to take up the counter-attack there by Guidi. And in fact, the whole field have closed right in behind them, so this really is a battle of nerves now. They've come right out of the blue at 500 metres to go, and they're going to have to hang on just to start the sprint. Fontanelli at the back there, also looking over his shoulder there is Massalia. And the Paneria boys are working very hard at the front of this group, but the main field are closing right in, and will they catch them right on the line here? Because it looks as though, indeed, that Casarotto is the rider who's setting the pace and is giving it all away by just keeping a top 5 finish for him. Fontanelli has waited as long as possible, and Fontanelli goes for the line now. He really gives it just about everything. Thinking of his flat tyre yesterday, perhaps Massalia is the other rider right on his shoulder. Fontanelli gets it. He takes it on the line. Massalia will be second. Guidi will be third. And that means Zanetto, just off our picture to the right in yellow, he gets that 4th place. But the King of the Mountains gets the stage victory here. What a great season Fontanelli is having. That will be his 7th win of the season. So Fontanelli finishing ahead of Massalia, Guidi, Zanetta, Casarotto. The main field coming in just 3 seconds behind the top 4 today. Overall, no change at all. And it's as you were right down into the top 8 positions. And on this stage, I think David Rebelan is going to be tested for the full. It is only the second mountaintop finish we've had so far this year's tour. We're heading to Pratanovoso, and no, there's no snow there. That little bit of publicity is what you would see if you came here in the winter. It's a ski resort, and it comes at the end of 115 kilometres today, a climb of 1,615 metres, and there's plenty of hills on the way. And the race has begun to split up already. The first attacks coming from Zbigniew Spruk of Paneria at the back and Pascal Hervé of Festina. 38 seconds is the split on the first group, and 43 seconds back to the group containing David Rebelan. And already abandoned Fabiano Fontanelli, the rider who won yesterday. He climbed off on the very first mountain today, perhaps feeling his stage win was all he came here for. He's gone. And he now has those 7 wins under his belt, 25 wins in all in his career. A day for the climbers indeed, and a nervous day for the man in pink as he watches the other riders launch the initial attacks and tries not to panic in these opening stages. Pascal Hervé, the rider taking the drink. Any man who gains a few seconds over the field today. And what's going on here? Because that was a clear push off the road there. And I'm not too sure why on earth that happened, but that was Fausto Dotti who pushed off the road Filippo Simeoni, and for no apparent reason. Well, I'm sure there'll be a fine tonight for that, and a warning from the referees, because that, you know, is a disqualification if the referees take that sort of attitude. But I think it's come as a show of frustration, because as they start the final 12 kilometres climb to the finish, the race is virtually all back together again. There they are, top of our picture, the main field are right on them, and now the counter-attacks are beginning. That's Pavel Tonkov of Paneria, who launches a very quick assault, and number 66 here is Ivan Gotti, lying 8th overall. He's trying to latch on. Enrico Zain is the Carrera rider. We just need to get up alongside and catch on the second rider there. It looks as though it might well be Piotr Ugramov, and it is. Ugrimov, the rider who finished second overall in 1993 and really did give Miguel Indurain a run for his money that year, and third in the Tour last year. So Pavel Tonkov starting to stretch the field a little bit. The Panaria team still have a full complement of riders in this event too, showing a good all-round depth of strength. Rebellin, well, he's wise to make the counter move. He knows he's going to be attacked heavily on this climb. Now it's going to be left to him and him alone to bridge the gap. It looks as though Zaina is in a little bit of trouble here as well. He's starting to lose ground as the climb heads up towards the summit, and all of the pressure is being applied today by the Russian rider Pavel Tonkov. Tonkov has sat on the front here. Ugrimov has glued limpet-like to his back wheel. And Zaina is losing ground to those who are coming up from behind. So this is a fine show of strength here by Pavel Tonkov. 27 years of age, been a pro since 1992. And last year he finished 6th overall in the Giro, so be it. 11.5 minutes behind the winner. And some 7 minutes behind, in fact, the rider behind him right now, Pyotr Ugrimov. As they head up towards the final kilometre, no one has helped. In fact, Tonkov, here's a counter move coming from Olano, the world champion. And there is still no sign there of a counter move coming from David Rebellin. So Rebellin is really in trouble now. As Olano talked about as the pre-race favourite, Rebellin is about 4th down the line here, so he's keeping Olano in his sights. And in fact, he's now got up alongside Olano. Berzin is there as well. But this is the rider as we climb the 1 in 10 or 10% finishing mountain to Prato Novozo. Well, you know, the Panaria team have had a lot of faith in Pavel Tonkov as producing the goods when it matters in the mountains, and it looks as though now we see the reason as to why it's been the Panaria team chasing down breaks they've seen as important while not declaring their colours as to exactly who their leader has been. And now they've got to this second big mountain finish of the Giro. Quite clearly, Tonkov has been their man. 4th in 1994, 5th in 1993, and 6th last year. So Tonkov is a rider for the GC and the Giro. There's no doubt about that. Is he getting enough time? And I would say he most certainly is now over Rebellin to take the overall lead of the Tour and pull on the pink jersey. He'll only be the second ever Russian to do that. The other one is Evgeny Berzin. This is Gotti setting the pace behind. He will have noted too that Berzin is not with him. Only a short stage today, but a very tough one, and quite clearly a very decisive one as Pavel Tonkov races up towards the line. Tonkov easily sprinting clear of Ugrimov, and he's going to get the pink jersey as a reward. Tonkov gets the stage. Ugrimov is over in second place. Now the time is counting. That's Buenahora at the front, 10th in last year's Tour de France, little Colombian climber. Well, he's not so little, really. He's quite tall and lanky. As Olano is just behind him. Zaina has survived. He's going to get third place. The clock counting him down to around about 20 seconds on the line. Zaina will take third place. And Rebellin is finding the strength to grab fourth. It won't be enough because it's going to be around about 30 seconds, the deficit. So the new leader of the Tour will be Pavel Tonkov. Rebellin gets fourth. Fifth is Buenahora there, Colombian and Kelme. And sixth, Abraham Olano. And just look at the damage this final climb has done here. The Polti riders were less spent because they've kept Rebellin in the hunt without doubt. But here's one big loser here, Evgeny Berzin, almost a minute lost for him. So Tonkov, the stage winner by 2 seconds ahead of Zaina, Rebellin, Buenahora, Olano, Gotti. Overall, though, look at the changes. Tonkov now leads Ugrimov by 20 seconds. Zaina, third at 38. Rebellin drops to fourth at 41. And Berzin, he's now a minute and 31 seconds back as we move on to the 14th stage. And this 205 kilometres takes us now across the Col de Madalena into France, and we climb the giant Col d'Izoire before the finish in the old part of the city of Briançon. And the man who has survived the breakaway at the front, here he is, Heinz Imbuden. He originally went on the move on the Col de Vars with Gotti, Belli, Massi and Nelson Rodriguez. He was dropped on the climb, he got back and he's left them all now to be swept up by the chase group, not surprisingly led now by Paneria. And there is the pink jersey of the new leader, Pavel Tonkov, in third position. Heinz Imbuden, his lead coming down all of the time. It's just over 2 minutes now. Nelson Rodriguez on his way back, in fact, to the pink jersey bunch. The Paneria boys showing they're really feeling pretty strong. And this now on the climb of the Col d'Izoard here. This is Pascal Richard, who's trying a tentative escape. Richard rides for the MG team. He won a couple of stages in the Giro d'Italia last year. He's also a past king of the mountains in 1994, so he's got the qualifications. The Swiss rider rides on an Italian team, speaks Italian fluently. And that's the group behind at the moment that Richard is going away from and climbing steadily on the Col d'Izoard. He's picking up here Heinz Imbuden. Nelson Rodriguez has gone back. A surprising rider, Richard. I remember him when he won the World Cyclo-Cross Championship back in 1988, the same day his new team of the time, Wyman, were having a press reception to announce their sponsorship. He was outside the window winning their first world title. It was an amazing day. That was in Switzerland, and now we have Pascal climbing very, very solidly today. A far cry from a couple of years ago when he was the king of the mountains. He spent a lot of time in the region here in very bad weather in the Tour of Italy. But through these pictures today, in perfect conditions in the Alps, in the French Alps at that, we're now watching the group behind, and Pavel Tonkov looking very, very solid indeed down there. On the back wheel of Pyotr Ugramov, and trying to pull clear a select group on the climb of the Izoard. By the way, a little footnote to the fight we saw. Fausto Dotti fined, by the way, not just 30 seconds in time penalties, but also $1,000 for that little punch he threw at Filippo Simeoni. Back to the race here. We've got sitting at the front now, the pink jersey. That's the place to be if you've got the strength. Further up the climb and gaining time, but not racing to the pink jersey yet, at least, Pascal Richard. Good crowds here on the Col d'Izoard, most of them French, of course, although we're not too far away from the Italian frontier. The Tour de France also racing in this region later this year, but it won't use the Col d'Izoard. It will use some of the climbs, though, the Tour of Italy are going over. Over the top of the Izoard, the road's barren, but the snow, even at this height, seemingly melted. 2,360 metres at the top of the climb. Pascal Richard is the first man over it. 182 kilometres covered. Now the descent down towards Briançon. A happy stage town, by the way, for Pascal, because he won a stage of the Tour de France. That his first ever stage victory in the Tour de France down in Briançon in 1989. And Ugramov claims second place, Tonkov third. Zayn has gone over in the white jersey, he's fourth, and the world champion Abraham Olano has gone over the top in fifth place, and they're sharing a drink down there now. 41 seconds is the gap, so it's nothing too significant, and it's all downhill now to the finish. It's not all downhill to the actual line, though, because you climb up through the old town of Briançon, and then you cross the line, and hopefully, in the case of Richard, you stay away. This is Claudio Chiappucci, who's attacked on the descent. He always was a careless descender. When he had the yellow jersey in the Tour de France on the descent of the Tourmalet, as he started his final climb up to Luzard-Iden, that was the first time we ever remember. Back in 1989, this great man, Claudio Chiappucci, he was caught by Greg LeMond at the start of the climb and then left for dead. But as we descend now down into Briançon, Pascal Richard should just about hang on to the few seconds advantage he's got over the field. It's not going to be a pink jersey for him, but it's certainly going to be a stage win. Well, the road's devoid of the public here, but they're all waiting for him as we climb up into the old town. And this is Chiappucci. He's still clear of the chase, taking the corner very wide indeed. But you have to take your hat off to Pascal Richard. He must be one of the shrewdest bike riders in the world. He always gets a win of every stage race. He watches for the right day. And today he's chosen certainly the perfect moment. Under the kilometre to go flag, he is clear. Chiappucci is chasing him, and then we have the group containing Olano, Tonkov, Hervé, Zaina, and David Rebellin he's also in that group. They're riding around about half a minute back. Chiappucci is only actually dangling just off the front of that group I've just mentioned. If he looks over his shoulder on these climbs, there's a real chance he would see them chasing him. As we watch Pascal Richard here, one of the noted retirements we've just heard about is Silvio Martinello. He has retired today, the sprinter. Perhaps he'll now prepare for the upcoming Olympic Games where he's going in the points. Well, Claudio Chiappucci, he made all of his advantage on the descent. He looks to be struggling now on this nasty little drag up to the finish in the Old Town. Pascal Richard, I think he's got the buffer he requires over the speed humps there as he comes up towards the line, but he's got far enough now. The last time check we got was 40 seconds over Chiappucci and 50 seconds on the field. Taking no chances, he looks over his shoulder, but he won't see much in these narrow roads, and all the cars right behind him through the gate of the Old Town. And a big crowd watching the arrival of the Tour of Italy into France here, and they're seeing it being won, yes, by an Italian team rider, but very much a Swiss man. Twice the national champion, twice a stage winner previously a year ago in the Tour of Italy, now gets the win here. Pascal Richard is home. Claudio Chiappucci is suffering, but he's hanging on to second place here. It looks as though he might well get it, but only just because the field are right up behind him there. There they are. And Chiappucci into the old Citadel and now racing up towards the line. He's found his legs for a little bit of a sprint here, and he'll need to sprint because he is only 1 or 2 seconds ahead of that field just come around the corner there. The pink jersey of Tonkov is safe. Chiappucci is also safe. He gets second. Alana, the world champion, beats Hervé in the sprint. Ugrimov, Zaina, Tonkov, Rebelin. That was the order over the line. And then we go back to the next group in. This looks like Buena Hora brings over Berzin, who has conceded a few more seconds today. The first victory by MG in this year's Giro d'Italia. And the victory going by 43 seconds to Pascal Richard over Claudio Chiappucci. That was a nice ride, and it's good to see him back in the overall result, but not in the overall classification because Tonkov keeps his 20 seconds lead. In fact, no change at all in the immediate placings overall. So today, Pavel Tonkov says goodbye to France with that 20-second overall lead advantage over Piotr Ugrimov. And now we head back to Aosta, 224 kilometres. The riders going home to Italy now for what is a very vicious end to this year's Giro d'Italia. Today, the stage, as I say, 224 kilometres. We say goodbye to France over the Col de Montgenèvre. That's the way into Italy and then down into the valleys. Pavel Tonkov now not too worried by an escape which has gone up the road containing 6 riders. They've got 48 seconds, but their lead is building. And in the escape is Gianni Bugno, the Italian champion. It's interesting to note at this stage too that Pavel Tonkov, his team, are the only team left in the Giro d'Italia this year with a full complement of 9 men. Here's the breakaway, and in the breakaway we've got Manuel Beltran, Sergei Uzlamin, Gianni Bugno, Francesco Casagrande, Carlo Finco and Alex Zivakov. And I can tell you too that 4 of the riders in this breakaway have never won a race as a professional, but this man has, Gianni Bugno. He has won plenty of big-time races, including the World Championship twice, the climb up to Alpe d'Huez twice, and indeed the Tour of Italy national title twice. Well, Gianni Bugno, I think he's going to want this one. He's coming lined up very well there. He's lying 4th in line at the moment. It's Casagrande who is leading out, looks over his shoulder. A very nervous approach to the line, this. Not surprisingly, because they've got a small gap over the field as the field is beginning to close down, but Finco now is looking for the whereabouts of his team leader, Bugno, seeing if he's on his wheel, and in fact Bugno, I'm sure, wants to win this stage. The reason being the press here in Italy have given him such a hard time in making him look like a very poor rider indeed, and I suppose to some degree, having been dropped on most of the climbs this time in the Tour of Italy, he hasn't been that good either. Anyway, he's out to make amends, or is he? Because Finco is giving him the perfect lead out. Bugno goes to the right of the picture. Casagrande takes him on as well, but Bugno is going to have to challenge hard here. He's kicking for the line, and Bugno is going clear with a very good sprint indeed here. Gianni Bugno pushing it all the way, gets his revenge. Bugno crosses the line ahead of Casagrande. 3rd place, I think, will go to Sergei Uzlamin of Russia. and not very far behind, but almost 3 minutes. The main pack coming in here, but Pavel Tonkov in the pink. He will stay that way. No change at all in the overall lead in the Tour of Italy. A little flower for the helpers, and Gianni Bugno back on the high spot, and I must say this is quite a swing around for the Bucks. And zipping his top up, Pavel Tonkov stays in the overall lead as the race now moves on to stage 16. And as we take a quick look around the museum, the Olympic Museum in Lausanne in Switzerland, the riders now facing up to a ride away from Italy after their brief incursion and back out to a foreign country, Switzerland. The race route taking them 180 kilometres through Montreux, perhaps made more famous for its film festivals than anything else, and down into Lausanne. And the breakaway today, well, we're expecting breakaways that perhaps will not affect the overall classification for a couple of days, and this is an attack now by Alexander Gonchenkov, who's having probably his best ever season. He's lying 32nd overall in the event, more than 15 minutes behind the pink jersey here of Pavel Tonkov, and you can see his lead has gone up now to 4 minutes and 41 seconds, and it's a simple job for Panaria today, just to keep an eye on the way things are going. Also up there with Gonchenkov, Heinz Inbuden and Putini, but he got rid of those two and is now coming up to the line here. And Alexander Gonchenkov, what a great season he is having. He started off so well with second in Tirreno Adriatico and second in Milan San Remo, 8th in the Tour of Flanders, 4th in the Amstel Gold Race, and now he's going to get a much well-deserved stage win in the Tour of Italy after almost 5 hours in the saddle today. The Roslotto rider, and he's quite a humorist on the circuit too, is Alexander Gonchenkov, and a very popular man. The Russians, many of them domiciled in Italy, are now anxious to show their colours to what they see as a home crowd. So in Lausanne, it's a Russian who celebrates the joint centenaries of the modern Olympiad and the promoting newspaper La Gazzetta della Sport. There he is, prepares to give the two-handed salute for Alexander Gonchenkov. The chase by Inbuden and Felice Putini, they never got on, and they finished around about 20 seconds behind. Another pink jersey, an unchallenged day for him too, Pavel Tonkov, now waiting for his rendezvous with the time trials and the mountains as the race now moves on towards its finish in Bahia on the 17th day of the Giro. And so the riders now preparing for their return yet again to Italy from Lausanne, having paid their respects to the modern Olympiad, and the route bringing through Martigny over 236 kilometres, the big climb of the San Bernard Pass, back through Aosta, where we were a couple of days ago, and down to the finish in Bahia. There is the contour, nearly 2,000 metres high. The Grand San Bernard Pass has done absolutely nothing today to alter the course of the race. And Bo Larsen attacking after only 8 kilometres of the race, and Laurent Roux of France joining him, and the two have had a maximum lead of more than 26 minutes. I suppose that sometime in every big stage race you get the opportunities doing this. It's the sort of day that nobody, it seems, wants to attack the pink jersey of Pavel Tonkov. Little Laurent Roux is something of a climber, been a pro now for 2 seasons, and he's only ever won 3 races, but even so, that's 3 more than Bo Larsen, who turned professional on the basis of his fine 6th World Championship placing in Colombia last year. And Bo Larsen, one of a clutch of famous Danes, and they're all the famous Danish team of a couple of years ago that seemed to win around the world, everything they did. And I think every one of them now, Bo Larsen's the last one, they've all turned professional. Well, the breakaway is still many, many minutes ahead. The last time check we got, it was 17 minutes up, and as you can see now, we're only 2 kilometres from the finish, and I think a little bit of finessing is in order here. Laurent Roux has been pushed into the lead by Nikolai Bo Larsen. It's a shame when one of the riders have to lose at this stage, because they've been in the lead today for 228 kilometres by the time they cross the line. It's going to be a very difficult stage to win, because they've got all the time in the world they need to play out this one. There's nobody going to pick them up now. They've been in the lead for about 5 hours and 35 minutes of the time on the screen there. Well, Bo Larsen wants the first win of his life, as a pro anyway, and he started the sprint now. And wouldn't it be any help to remind him now that he shares a flat with Glenn Magnussen, the only other rider on his team to win a stage of this year's Giro, the Amora Avita team. And I don't think little Laurent Roux has got any answer to the sprint here, but he's going to have a go. Laurent Roux is now digging very sharply on the right. He's lost it by inches in the end. He made that desperate attempt, and I'm not surprised. Upset Laurent Roux there. He didn't quite get on to the level of Nikolai Bo Larsen. And Laurent Roux, perhaps a better climber than a sprinter, tries to get alongside Nikolai Bo Larsen at this, but there's a lot of power coming out of the red-haired Dane, and he gets his first ever race victory as a professional. It comes in the Tour of Italy. The sprint now for the third place, and this is Sergio Barbaro, who looks like he's going to take it out for Carrera. He's been sprinting very well, actually. And Marco Della Vedova, he gets fourth, and fifth is Amicare Tronca. And the remnants of the field coming in, all of the field. Look at the time on the clock here. You can see how seriously today Tonkov took the breakaway. 16.5 minutes, albeit, for the main field coming in. Tonkov not too far away from the front. There's confirmation of the stage result. Teteriuk was the rider there who got sixth from Kazakhstan. The overall situation, no change at all these past few days. Tonkov 20 seconds ahead of Ugrimov. Zaina is third. So the Giro d'Italia back home in Italy now. 5 stages to go. The big time trial tomorrow, followed by 2 tough mountain stages. A tough weekend ahead for Pavel Tonkov. 216 kilometres of flat roads today. These won't concern him at all. And it looks as though it's going to come down to another sprint finish as we come under the 1 kilometre to go barrier. And again, Mario Cipollini, who has come through the mountains so far and gone through France and Switzerland, is now going to try and get the stage. He's got himself a perfect position right again. This time he's up behind Giovanni Lombardi. He's gone round the back of the big balloon. But Mario Cipollini tucked in there now. He's still holding his fire. He's lying there in second place as he swings round into the home straight. The champion of Italy goes very wide. And it looks now as though he's going to have to kick. He makes it look almost casual, this, but the power in this man who pushes all of the strength right from his shoulders down into those long legs, and Lombardi is not going to get on terms with him at all, and neither is Casarotto or Scrigno. That's the order over the line. Is Cipollini, Lombardi, it was Zbigniew Spruk who got third, Guidi in fourth place, Casarotto, and they were all virtually in a straight line. Mario Cipollini gets his 4th stage win of this tour, and would you believe his 16th stage win in all of the Giros he's ridden. Overall, no change at all. There will be tomorrow because it's now the eve of the big time trial. And showdown time with the 62 kilometres individual time trial. Will it decide the Giro d'Italia? Starting from Vicenza, it goes through to Marostica. And it is a test starting on flat roads, but it builds up as the race progresses. And really, it should decide at least a solid order before the race goes into 2 very difficult days in the Dolomites before that final day down to the finish in Milan. This is the overall situation at the start this morning. Tonkov 20 seconds ahead of Ugrimov, 38 seconds back is Zaina, 44 seconds back is David Rebellin. We're looking now at the Bianchi bicycle here of Evgeny Berzin. An excellent time trialist, his memory going back to a couple of years ago when he beat Miguel Indurain and went on to win the Giro d'Italia, the first ever Russian to do that. He's going to have to fight back now from 8th place, 1 minute and 41 seconds down. A lot of time to make up to get himself back in the frame. Switching now to Gonchenkov here at the Czech of Braganza. He's gone through with the best time. Zenon Jaskula through there originally with the best time. The rider who once eliminated many riders in the Tour of Switzerland when he went on to win a mountain time trial there. This is the situation at 39 kilometres covered. Gonchenkov leading by 1 minute and 9 seconds. So his good form continues. Not so for Claudio Chiappucci. He's never been a man for the big time trials. His times recorded are showing he's not riding too quickly now, having started 2 minutes in front of Evgeny Berzin. And here is Berzin visibly moving quicker. I think very shortly he's going to pick up Chiappucci into his sides because he's gaining big time on him. Taking the fastest way around the corners here, the Gavis rider. As we go back to the start house of Abraham Olano. the world champion, beaten only by Miguel Indurain to the time trial title almost a year ago, towards the end of last season in Colombia. He gets the start. Remember that Olano in 7th place overall and still 1 minute 20 seconds off Tonkoff's pink jersey, and still the man everybody talks about as the favourite for this year's Giro. Berzin, Olano, two masters of the art against the watch, and they're going to run pretty close at the time checks at the moment. The little compact figure on the left there of Evgeny Berzin looks rather frail against the big stout frame of Abraham Olano. This is Pyotr Ugrimov, his turn to start. He starts 2 minutes in front of Pavel Tonkoff. Must be a daunting feeling to know that the leader will be chasing you out of the start house in just 2 minutes' time as Ugrimov goes. A second and third in previous Giro d'Italias. The blue Bianchi frame and the disc wheels here of Evgeny Berzin, who settled into a great start. He is showing the best of the starts so far. Tonkoff still to go, of course. And Tonkoff has gone. So Tonkoff rolls out of the start house. The applause of the crowd, the Russian leader of the Giro d'Italia. He knows now he's going to have to produce the ride of his life to keep that pink jersey. He said at the press conference yesterday all he wanted to do was a good enough time to keep the pink jersey and get back into the mountains where he has a better chance of defending it, I think. The world champion, this is where he must make his play. Olano has got to gain big time today to put himself in this race with the last weekend to come. Gonchenkov approaching the best time of Finko and gets the best time so far. So Gonchenkov is the trailblazer ahead of the field and continues his good tour. He's had one stage win so far. I might have had two if he hadn't had a flat tyre at one stage when he was in that breakaway with Fontanelli. Now this is Olano at Salcedo, the second time check, chasing the best time already through Evgeny Berzin in 26:29.8. Oh, and look at that, just 0.8 of a second better for Abraham Olano. This is going to be quite a race now between Olano and Berzin. They're separated by only a few seconds on the overall classification, 14 to be precise, and virtually nothing in it at all between the world champion and Berzin. The course from now on, though, gets a little bit tougher. Here's the situation with still the top riders to go through. Olano, best time, 26 minutes, 29 seconds. Look at this. Caught for 2 minutes. Claudio Chiappucci, and made to be looking as though he's slowing right down. Evgeny Berzin ploughs on. The long empty road ahead of him, and the same can be said for the race leader here. He is sweeping up today, starting last man out of the start house. And Pavel Tonkoff not looking very good at all there. The time checks will reveal all very shortly, but he didn't look as though he was going too well. Because of the rules, no motorbike camera is allowed up on the rider's shoulders anymore, so we're going to have to take these pictures from the rear and imagine what the faces look like. Tonkoff, 1 minute 16. That's an awful lot of time lost by Tonkoff on the best time so far. You know, his pink jersey very much in danger to either Olano or Berzin. Advantage Olano at the moment. Here it is, Olano, 26:29. Tonkoff down there in only 8th place, 1 minute 16 seconds off the pace. And Olano starting today 1:27 behind Pavel Tonkoff. Head-to-head battle between Berzin and Olano. They are locked together, these two riders. It is going to be a terrific finish to this time trial. Who was going to have the strength towards the end, because it's going to tell all of that. Pyotr Ugrimov coming through at the check of Braganza, chasing a lowly time here because he's going now. Ugrimov only through in 5th place. Berzin the best time to arrive here for the moment. So Ugrimov continues. We're looking at Evgeny Berzin here now as we move on to that 5th intermediate time check, and Berzin now setting new times there. So Berzin looks set now to arrive at the finish with the best time, but of course Olano and Ugrimov and Tonkoff are all behind him on the course. This is Pavel Tonkoff at Braganza, and the time is going to tell all here. He's racing against the 5th time of Ugrimov at this check. He comes through. He is 1:40 down on Berzin. So he's lost his overall lead if Olano confirms at Braganza, because the new leader on the road now is Abraham Olano, unless, of course, he's lost ground to Evgeny Berzin, and he hasn't. So the best man at the moment, Abraham Olano, the new leader of the Tour of Italy, as the head-to-head continues here. Look at this, 1:14.03 against 1:13.47 of Berzin. Olano is riding to the pink jersey in the Giro d'Italia at the moment. Taking a lot of risks on the way down there too, Abraham Olano, cutting off the corners. As Evgeny Berzin continues to ride himself back into a high place also in the Giro d'Italia. We could see Berzin, Olano, Tonkov, the men at the top of the leaderboard tonight. Berzin still finding plenty of speed in those little legs of his as he races down towards the finish now. Huge crowd here cheering on Berzin, the first ever Russian to win overall the Tour of Italy. He's chasing the time of Gonchenkov. And it's going to be desperately close. The quality ride of Gonchenkov is there for you to see. And now you see the new best time, 1:13.59 for Evgeny Berzin. That's the best time on the board. Abraham Olano has got to match that time. Preferably, he's got to better it by about 14 seconds if he's any chance of taking the pink jersey, with Tonkov still to finish. And it's going to be very, very close indeed, but it's not going to be that much better than Berzin. It's not going to be a pink jersey for Olano at all. It could be for Berzin, though. As he comes up to the finish, Olano is going to be 1.1 seconds slower, so Olano has been reversed by Berzin. He drops into second place. This is Ugrimov at the 5th checkpoint. His helmet has gone into the crowd, feeling the heat, as has that too of Pavel Tonkov at the Maglia Rosa of the Giro d'Italia. What a time trial this has turned out to be. There still could be a pink jersey awaiting Evgeny Berzin. It all will depend on the time now of Pavel Tonkov, but he does seem to be getting better as the race goes on. He certainly made a rough start and lost a lot of time, but he's now beginning to close in just a little bit. He may well save the day yet. Here's the time checks coming up. It'll be an interesting one. It must compare now with Evgeny Berzin. There's a rider going through who appears to have given up the ghost on the left of our picture there as Tonkov comes over the top, 1:31. It's still very desperate days for Tonkov because Berzin, 1:41. His deficit overnight. It could be that Tonkov is going to save that jersey by a matter of seconds. The face of Pavel Tonkov. We finally get a little look at it there as our camera slips in alongside. Rapidly pulls back to allow Tonkov to shoot at that left-hand corner. Here's the arrival now, Pyotr Ugrimov. He's also off the leaderboard now as he races towards the 5th time of Carlo Finko. A little bit of a sprint from the Latvian. It's not going to be a great ride from Pyotr Ugrimov. It's only going to be 6th place at the moment, and still Tonkov to come. The last man out on the course, Tonkov. Every pedal rev could be inching him just clear of Evgeny Berzin. He could well be saving the overall lead. He certainly wasn't away at half distance, but it might well be now. As he hits the line, 1:27 is the gap. Tonkov will keep his jersey, and by my reckoning, Olano will be very, very close, desperately close, and Berzin will be a few seconds behind Olano. That's the way I see it. And let's have a look. The result of the stage, Berzin gets it by a single second from Olano. Gonchenkov is 3rd, Tonkov is 4th at 1:27. And that ride by Pavel Tonkov, and did he suffer, has kept him in the pink jersey. There it is, a single second, because the times are rounded to the second. Olano is in 2nd place and Tonkov keeps his overall lead. And now he's got to do it all over again if he's going to run out the winner of the Giro d'Italia. The Passo Poidois is climbed twice here in the Dolomites, once midway through and once to the finishing line at the end of a ride of 220 kilometres. This is the sting in the tail that everybody has talked about, the first of 2 very, very vicious days indeed. The race starting from Bassano del Grappa, once the scene of the World Championships, and now it is racing all over the mountains of the Dolomites. And the big decisive climbs will be the 2,000 metre plus. There's 4 of them today, including that 2 climbs, as I say, of the Passo Poidois. And here, as we head towards it for the first time, perhaps predictably, Mariano Piccoli, the leader of the King of the Mountains and indeed the defending champion, in this breakaway with Filippo Simeoni. And no immediate reaction from the field because Piccoli is chasing the King of the Mountains points while Simeoni, a second-year professional, is just trying to grab himself a little piece of glory on the Carrera team. Massive crowd here, all sensing today they could witness the kill, and as to exactly who will win, the Giro d'Italia, Tonkov, remember, just protecting a single-second advantage over Abraham Olano, the world champion. This is Rodolfo Massi here, who's trying to get across to Piccoli and Simeoni on the climb of the Pordois under what is the kilometre banner, and it will certainly be that next time around. But this time it's just a kilometre for them to the summit, and then they go on, descend to the Marmolada, and then climb back over this pass to the finishing line. Still 68 kilometres to go. Piccoli has been a very strong and decisive leader in the King of the Mountains. He was a good winner last year, and now he looks set to gather enough points to be the winner this time around as well. Up to the summit of the climb, the clock gets ready. No reaction from Simeoni. He's going to allow Piccoli, who's made all of the running up the climb, to get the win, followed by himself. And now it looks as though Massi is hanging on to third place. He's clear of the field. And this is the remnants of the field, a very select group indeed. Gianni Bugno, who lost so much time early on, sitting third wheel now, as the Paneria team have to do all of the work to try and keep the race in touch. They're more concerned with the content of that chase group, which does include Berzin and indeed Olano and Ugrimov, so the danger men, the men most dangerous to Pavel Tonkov, are still alongside it. But one climb of the big pass is over. Now on the way down, and it looks as though Massi is going to make contact very shortly with the two leaders, Piccoli and Simeoni. Makes an interesting three-man breakaway, the combination which could survive here. Vladimir Belli of Paneria is such a strong teammate of Tonkov, setting the pace. Aina comes through in second place. He's a bit of a surprise in this race. Then comes the pink jersey by just 1 single second, Pavel Tonkov, and the man who's haunting him now right on his wheel there, Abraham Olano. An attack going up the inside there. Looks like the rider attacking is Brasiliat Fausto Dotti. A reaction coming, I think, from Bietziberg of Switzerland. They're on the lower slopes. And meanwhile, the three leaders together here now assessing the situation. Working well together. Massi is having an inspired tour here. The stage win already. He's been a pro for 9 years, don't forget. Join the leaders on a day when he might feel that the infighting will all be reenacted behind as Tonkov tries to contain Olano. Still heading towards the climb of the Marmolada. Long downhill run now before they only have to climb back up to the summit next time around. There'll be no more downhill. Here's a glance at the field, and I don't see any of the stars missing. Evgeny Berzin looking pretty relaxed. And he's just having a little chat with his teammate there. Bruno Kengialta, a strong man when you need him. But it looks as though this group has lost a little bit of its impetus here on the climb of the Marmolada, and in fact they're being caught and drawn in very, very quickly indeed. There is Dotti, who was away, but he's now back at the head of the field. Number 33 there is Bietziberg, so they've both been picked up. This is the advanced scout group, and this is the pink jersey group here. Ivan Gotti also here. And none of the real favourites missing from this select climbing group. You wouldn't get anything out of the face here of Pyotr Ugrimov, who looks across at Abraham Olano, the champion of the road race. What a great title that was to win with a flat tyre, let's not forget. Miguel Indurain taking second place, and Spain at last getting a world road racing champion. But the field has caught up and is swelling all of the time now. Piccoli in that green jersey drops down a little bit. It looks as though we've got another attack here coming from Dotti. Just testing the water once again. It was his attack that really caused the crumbling of that breakaway of Piccoli, Simeoni and Massi. And they're not really ready to fight again yet, are they? Vladimir Belli setting the pace for Paneria. His job is simple today. Go as fast as you can for as long as you can, and then hope that Pavel Tonkov can keep his jersey. That 1 second margin is not much, is it? And this is Beat Zeeberg, who's again caught up with Dotti for the second time today, and this time he's not going to wait for him. He's sprinted straight past Fausto Dotti and left him, and he's gone out on a lone sortie here. Now this is a good move by the Carrera team, because remember, they have Enrico Zaina still in a high overall position in this league group, and now it's down to the others to chase Beat Zeeberg. Veneria, no immediate reaction. Here's Piccoli again trying to nibble away at the front, and again the pack are coming back onto him. So the King of the Mountains, all he wants is the points at the summit. He's quite happy to wait for the pack, but they're not letting him go this time. And this looks like a rather cracked Fausto Dotti. The legs have gone as he looks up the road and sees Beat Zeeberg, who won the Grand Prix Frankfurt this year, his first big classic victory in Germany. A very good climber, and if he gets away and settles in, he might well climb over the top of the Marmolada and then onto the Podoi for the finish. But the breakaways have all been spread asunder now. Still Paneria remain in charge. Pavel Tonkov, who's always had a high finish in all of the tours he's ridden here. Now 27 years of age, been a professional for, this will be his 5th season. One of the stunning views here in the Dolomites of how they build these roads in Italy, I'll never know. The gap is up to 50 seconds from the first group, which contains the pink jersey. And Zeeberg now heads gently towards the top of the Marmolada, and then the descent, and then the climb up to the top of the Podoi and the finish. And the group is absolutely shattering now. Just tagging on to the back here of the pink jerseys, Abraham Olano, that second looking a little bit fragile for him even, as Ugramov also starts to increase the pace. On the far side, it's Zaina. So Pavel Tonkov, perhaps the advantage, has swung back to the Russian rider. Now we're away from the time trial, because that's the first time I've noted Abraham Olano actually suffering on the climbs during this Giro. Here's Zaina sitting at the front of the group. One of the real finds of this year's Giro, and a good replacement for the absent Marco Pantani. Ugramov now into his 30s and still riding like a very young man in second place. Tonkov without the Paneria team around him now. They've been blown out on this climb. It's quite a tough climb, the Marmolada, by the way. It certainly isn't an easy stepping stone to the finish climb of the Podoi, and it looks as though Evgeny Berzin also is not feeling too hot after his great time trial. That's Gotti tagged on to a suffering Olano. And there's still a long way to go up this climb. Tonkov looks a lot better than Olano does. So we've got Zaina, Ugramov, Tonkov, and then Olano gone, and losing ground, Evgeny Berzin. And they're still trying to hunt down Beat Zeeberg up front, but they won't be worried too much about him at the minute. There he is down there. And it looks as though Olano, his World Championship jersey, unzipped all of the way down, has cracked. Olano losing ground. If Tonkov looked over his shoulder now, he would take a lot of solace in that, because Olano, the man who was the favourite, especially after that great time trial yesterday, looks to be in serious trouble now, and this is not the finishing climb. So there's a lot of big time could be gained by Tonkov here. And Tonkov now should turn his attention probably to Enrico Zaina, because he's the next danger man on the books, because all of the others seem to have dropped away from the overall classification. Olano was 1 second behind, now he's about 6 overall. Berzin, who was 14 seconds behind at the start of the day, he's even further back behind Olano. Ugramov is still in that group with Tonkov. He started though 1 minute 58 seconds behind Pavel Tonkov. Here's Berzin. And Berzin, in fact, looks to be in a little bit of trouble, even in that group. So a study in concentration here at Pavel Tonkov, as Ugramov rides well, but the man who is dishing out all of the pain here is Enrico Zaina. Tonkov comes over the top of Ugramov, as Ugramov looked at him with quite a grimace on his face. I think that Ugramov may have cracked here. He's lost the ground. He seemed to be going so well just a few seconds ago. There was an acceleration by Zaina. Tonkov spotted it, jumped it, and has now put Ugramov in all sorts of trouble. But not as much trouble as the World Road Race champion, Abraham Olano. He looks to be finding a little bit of a rhythm here, but there's nobody left around him to help now. He's got a lonely trail to plough by himself. Enrico Zaino tapping out the rhythm as he has done since the start of the climb of the Marmolada, and Tonkov just hanging on there and hoping. This is Ugrimov, and Ugrimov still falling back here because that's Ivan Gotti who's come through. And an acceleration now further up the climb by Zaina. What a recovery this is by this rider. A mediocre time trial yesterday, but he's gaining big time now over everybody today. So if you can't ride a time trial, you have to fly in the mountains. And he's got another tough day to come tomorrow as well. The pink jersey now has been dispatched backwards. This is superb cycling by Enrico Zaina. As we climb steadily now towards the finish, he has put the pink jersey in serious trouble. But Tonkov knows if he can limit his losses to just this one man, he will keep that pink jersey tonight. Enrico Zaina for Carrera. And one would have to wonder quite what Pantani would have done on similar slopes here had he had his usual form in the mountains. Instead, we're having to watch his teammate Zaina, and he's doing a pretty good job of it, isn't he? Continues to look very, very frisky at the front, inspired by the fact that he's heading towards his second stage victory in this year's Giro d'Italia, far and away his best ever tour. We're watching the battle behind as riders are beginning to crack. Rider number 66 is Ivan Gotti. He's having an inspired climb now. He's come right up to the back wheel of Pavel Tonkov. Tonkov may have gritted his teeth and hung on, and now the elastic has snapped. He may have blown. Gotti going by him. It's a long, long climb to the finish on the Podoi, and Ivan Gotti is not going to rush at it. He's got up alongside Pavel Tonkov. Tonkov looks across to the left to see if he can spot anybody coming. He'll take a lot of confidence from the fact that Olano is nowhere in sight now. And Ugrimov, well, he's found his second wind here. He's coming right up behind Tonkov and Gotti. And that takes a lot of doing. But there aren't many tougher cyclists in Piotr Ugrimov. He's had his great battles in the Tour of Italy in the past, especially with Miguel Indurain. Almost run him to the victory too a couple of years ago. He was less than a minute behind him when the final analysis was made. And on this little bit of the flatter slopes here, he's coming across to the leaders. Meanwhile, further down the slopes, the pain here on only Moto 3 of the World Road Race champion, Abraham Olano, who has been joined now by Stefano Faustini from the Aki team. Another man who's featured throughout this 3-week race and will still be consolidating a top 10 overall position if he can hang on to the world champion. But it seems nobody can hang on to Zaina. Continues to climb with tremendous confidence. And Faustini, in fact, he's just come up and has now been dropped by a very steady piece of riding here from Olano. Experience telling perhaps when he knew he was making the effort just a little bit over his limit, he dropped back. Now he's found his rhythm again and continues to climb reasonably well. This is Gotti. First came to our notice a year ago in the Tour de France when he snatched the race lead for a day. You may remember that the referees then split the bunch timing at the finish, and the jersey went across to Bjarne Riis, his Danish teammate. Riis not here and preparing for the Tour de France, where he'll take on Miguel Indurain, of course, who is also not here. They say you can't win both the Tour of Italy and the Tour de France anymore. You have to make the choice, and that in many ways is a shame for the Giro d'Italia because it leaves out some of the big names. But you can't complain about the competition because Enrico Zaina has ridden superbly today. And Ugrimov continues to set the tempo. And it looks to me as though, in fact, Abraham Olano is beginning to climb back into the picture here. He took a packet at the start of the climb, but he is closing in. And that's terrific show determination from the world champion. Zaina is still climbing clearly to a stage victory. But look at this now. Alano has come back to the side of Pavel Tonkov. The 1 second gap once more exists. Tonkov is in all sorts of trouble here. His rhythm has gone. Zugramov, who climbed back into the picture, has gone past Pavel Tonkov. And now I wonder now if Abraham Alano will get up alongside Tonkov and let him see he's arrived. The Basque flag flying on the left of our picture, and they all wanted to catch a glimpse of Abraham Olano, and now he's going to kick and kick hard, so Tonkov can't react. Tonkov is trying to react. He probably can only think of 1 second as he digs very, very deep indeed, but he's going to, if he does win the Tour of Italy now, he's going to be a true champion. He had to fight back in the time trial to save that jersey by a second, and now when things seemingly were going so well, he's having to fight back again to hang on to Abraham Olano. But it could well be that the pink jersey denied Olano yesterday by that 1 second will be his today. But first he's got to get rid of the pink jersey of Tonkov. But the acceleration by Olano is taking him back up to Ugramov. Look at the face of Ugramov here, just ahead of him, and he's seen him, Ivan Gotti. Well, this has been a tough climb up the Marmolada, but Zaina has been the man to go over the top in first place. We're now seeing the chase behind. Gotti has gone over, followed by Ugramov. We're on the descent. You're no sooner down than you're on the climb again, next time of the Podoi. And that will take them to the finish. What a vicious day this has been in the Dolomites. The whole 2 weeks of racing now proving to be just shadow boxing. The time trial opened up the gaps, or in the case of Olano and Tonkov, it didn't. And now it's a matter of opening up the gaps yet again here in the Dolomites. 20 kilometers to go. At least we've got a little bit of downhill first. Some 12 miles to the finish. Well, the depth that these professionals have gone to here to show their true depths of courage, because they've all taken a bad ride except this rider, Zaina, on the climb of the Marmolada, and they've all had to fight back. A real showdown indeed. And they've come back together. Gotti at the rear, followed in front of him by the Roslotto rider Ugramov, then Tonkov of Panaria, and being led, of course, by the world champion. Abraham Olano heading into the town before we start the climb up to the finish. Olano looks a little bit more settled to me now. What a difference one mountain makes, because it's probably Tonkov now who is a little bit worried about the climb ahead. These four riders, having left behind them a shattered main field, the pink jersey, the world champion, a Latvian and an Italian. And it's the Latvian, the oldest man in the group, who is setting the pace. Tonkov trying now, I think, to demonstrate to Olano that he's not really tired at all by riding in front of him. Ivan Gotti, the rider to watch, he's nothing to gain at the moment, although he's reasonably well up overall, but he's the man. He knows he'd need to involve himself with the infight that exists between Olano and Tonkov, and he might take an advantage from that later. The gap now up to 1 minute for Enrico Zaina. He's never put a wheel wrong, has he? He's climbed so well on the Marmolada, and now we're on the Podoi, and it looks like he's climbing to overall victory. There's his deficit, 4 minutes 9 seconds behind overnight in 8th place to Tonkov. That makes him 4 minutes 10 seconds to Olano. He's pulling back a minute of that at the moment, so he's climbing up the overall classification. And it looks as though Gotti may well have slipped the other two here, the other three rather, and this is Bugno. He's come from absolutely nowhere. Gianni Bugno has crossed the gap to the leaders from absolutely nowhere. Well, that's an inspired day for the champion of Italy, the man who lost 11 minutes very early on in the opening week of this year's Giro, has now found himself on an inspired ride today. The champion of Italy has joined the leaders. And not only has he joined them, but he's going. And I don't think there can be much of a reaction here, because they know he's so far behind overall. They're not going to chase him down and risk another rider jumping them when they do it. And so, well, having said that, in fact, Ugramov has climbed back up to Bugno without really doing much about it. I think Bugno must have slowed down there. Ugramov, Olano, Tonkov and Gianni Bugno takes fourth wheel. Gotti is the man who slipped them, and I don't know if Bugno will know about that because he wasn't in that group when he came up to join Olano. And Gotti is closing in on Zaina. It's down to 49 seconds, but the gap over the others is opening up, and almost a minute and a half now the advantage for Zaina. He's climbing up the overall classification in leaps and bounds here, and there's still a long way to go up this climb. This beautiful mountain range, the Dolomites in Italy, providing a great battleground today. He really doesn't look in any trouble, does he, Zaina? This is Olano now trying again to test Tonkov. He only needs a second, and providing he stays within range of Zaina, he'll get the pink jersey. And at the most crucial stage of the event, just 2 more days to go. But again, Ugramov, this man just will not give up. He is such a hard man, grits his teeth and powers his way back to the wheel of the world champion. Tonkov, I think, by my opinion here, is just praying for the end of this stage now. He is hanging. And Bugno, who attacked, has been brought back yet again. Twice the world champion, twice a winner of the famous mountain stage in the Tour de France at Alpe d'Huez, by the way. Only 2 other Italians have ever done that. The very first one in 1952 was the late and great Fausto Coppi, and the other one was Roberto Conti, who after riding a career of 10 years, that was his first ever road race victory. But back with the Tour of Italy, and the man who is making his name today, no, not Marco Pantani of Carrera, but Enrico Zaina, now only 3 kilometers from the finish. I'm not surprised the Carrera team here don't believe they're having such a day. The great battle that should have been between Olano and between Tonkov and Berzin, and it's not that way at all. It is Zaina now who's getting all the Italian cheers on the climb as they look down and see him coming up towards the summit. If anything, he's going quicker and quicker, despite the apparent fitness of the spectators. And there's an attack on at the front. Olano trying once again just to shake his tail. He wants to get rid of just that 1 second, and he will get the pink jersey because the gaps aren't big enough to Zaina. But look at this. Tonkov is a limpet. He's locked himself onto the back wheel of the world champion. He refuses to be dislodged. And all this happening as we go under 1 kilometer to go now for Enrico Zaina. He's going to get the stage win for sure, but at what time gaps over the rest, and that will be crucial. Gotti is still chasing him, although we haven't seen anything of him. Our cameras seem to be spread all over the mountains as well today. And not too happy with the closeness of the Tifosi as Zaina heads up towards the finish. And they're just about jumping back here as he blasts his way through the tunnel, and this will be a first for Enrico Zaina, leading a stage of the Giro d'Italia up to a mountain top finish. And there's not much further to go now. He just makes sure, as all good pros do, that nobody is sneaking up. In this case it will be Ivan Gotti, but no sign of Gotti as Enrico Zaina of Carrera probably will dedicate the stage to Marco Pantani, the rider who should have been here, of course, and was kept out of the sport this season by that terrible crash when he was hit by a car at the end of last season in a race. And just look at this, over 7 hours today in the Dolomites, a massive day of mountain climbing, and the man who has been inspired throughout it, Enrico Zaina, gets his second stage win of the Giro d'Italia. And the clock now will tell us shortly how long he's got to wait and how high he will climb over the others in this race. I don't think he'll do enough to climb over the actual leaders. Gotti comes in 47 seconds down. Still, we've got that crucial sprint. Remember, only 1 second between Olano and Tonkov. Tonkov has got to hang on to the wheel of Olano, and I'm not sure he can. As Bugno gets third, there is a gap there, a very definite gap. Olano will take fourth place, and I think there's a second there. They'll give a second back to Tonkov, and if he goes to the same time, I think they'll award the pink jersey to Olano because of the better time trial. This is Evgeny Berzin. He is the big loser today, isn't he? 4.5 minutes and counting. He has conceded. His Giro d'Italia has gone out of the window. And this is the rider who caused the big time gaps. Enrico Zaino, the sweat clearly dripping off his face as he comes up to the line to get his second stage win of this year's Giro d'Italia. There's the result. Gotti comes in at 47. Bunyo, Alano and Tonkov was given a time difference. He is given second place overall, the same time as Abraham Alano. Zaina is up into third place. What a race this is turning out to be. Denied yesterday the pink jersey. The world champion gets it today. And by the way, he was given the victory, or the lead rather, by 46 hundredths of a second. That was the official time gap. The final day in the Dolomites, the Saturday, the penultimate day of the race, the longest one as well. 250 kilometres now, taking the rise from Cavallese on a tour of the Dolomites, and there are some brutes here. 4 of them are topping the list of all of the climbers today. The race will finish down in Aprica, and there's a little rundown on the profile. The biggest of the climbs is the Passo di Gavia, but watch out for the Mortarolo, which is a brute of 13 kilometres. We join the race here on the Passo di Gava, and alone in the lead is the Colombian climber, Hernan Buenajora, and he was the rider who took 10th place in the Tour de France last year. A gifted climber indeed, being chased all the way up here. Nelson Rodriguez and the rider in yellow, Stefano Faustini. They're not too far behind Buenajora. They should get together on the descent. And there's a revitalised Gianni Bunyo. While the Mappe boys pick up the newspapers, not to read, of course, but to push up the jumpers, ready for the descent and that cold wind. Ugramov takes a little bit of reading material as well. The way down off the Gavia. Cautious descent this by the Colombian. Certainly not a man in a hurry. He's taken the King of the Mountains points, but Piccoli already well clear in that competition. There's Berzin, third in line of the group, the pink jersey of Abraham Alano, sitting off the back of this big group. The scenery today undoubtedly is stunning, but his concentration must not be relinquished at all, because on these descents, which are very, very dangerous in the Dolomites, as you can see, you have to keep your full wits about you. Buenajora still leading down here. Rodriguez sitting at the back, the little man who once beat Pyotr Ugramov in the Alps to a stage win in the Tour de France after sitting on Ugramov all the way to the line. He outsprinted him. Rodolfo Massi trapped in between this group and trying to get across, as he was the other day. And he might well get across, because the main field behind are concentrating on the in-house battle for the final destination of the Maglia Rosa. It should be decided today for the final ride into the finish tomorrow. There is Massi, 30 seconds down. The group containing Abraham Alano and Tonkov is at almost 2 minutes at the moment. And Massi back up now with the leaders, so we've got 4 of them: Buenajora, Faustini, Rodriguez and Massi. Well, any one of these rides, looks so Massi there is a little bit worn out after the chase. He's had one stage win and has put in some good rides in the mountains this last couple of days. Latched onto the back, which is 44 kilometres to go of this long stage, but now we're beginning the climb of the Mortarolo. This is without doubt the steepest climb in this year's Giro d'Italia, with slopes of 1 in 5, some 20% gradients. It goes up for 13 kilometres, and Ugramov is the first to start trying to break up this elite group. Ivan Gotti also setting the pace, Ugramov just behind him. Then Zaina, what can you say about him? He continues to look good. Pavel Tonkov, not the one in the pink jersey anymore, but the one in the pink of Paneria. And it looked to me as though Alano was in a bit of trouble at the back there, and he was. Abraham Alano has lost ground here, and we're only on the start of this long climb, and if Tonkov cares to look over his shoulder, he could hurt him more. It was the acceleration of Ivan Gotti that put him in trouble. This looks as though Rodriguez being picked up now by the group. Ugramov, Zaina, and Rodriguez making no effort at all to latch on the back. He's going to very shortly be passed then by Abraham Alano, who is losing ground rapidly. They're all coming back now. Massi is also coming back. So Faustini and Buenajora are still just in front. Alano climbs past Nelson Rodriguez, who has no more fight left in him. The same may not be said of the pink jersey. Equal on time with Tonkov, so now he's down into second place in this year's Giro. What a marvellous tailpiece this has been. Here are the other two attackers of the day, Buenohora and Faustini, being picked up now by a group inspired by the loss of Abraham Olano. And it was a long stare back there by Buenohora, and he was probably looking to see if the pink jersey was present, and he was certainly not. 27 seconds the gap now to Tonkov and Olano. That's enough to win this year's Giro for him. But he must watch out now for the resurgence of Zaina, who with a good ride today could well move up into the overall lead. There he is on the left of our picture. Ugramov has had an excellent race, always been in the action when it matters. Perhaps the final killer strength leaving him a little bit as he gets older. Tonkov, of course, the same can't be said of this man, who's now coming very much into his own, having had a love affair with the Giro d'Italia for a number of years. Gotti too, never having yet won a race as a professional, but he climbed up there into second place yesterday. He's going to be in at the kill again, it seems, today, as he starts the attacks once more. Gets rid of the breakaways who just came back to him. Tonkov certainly knows the wheel to follow. Jumped immediately into the strip sleeve here of Gotti. Gotti looks over his shoulder just to see if Tonkov wants to come through and do any work, and I don't think he can at the minute. What a nice feeling it must be, though, for Tonkov, knowing he is pulling away from Abraham Olano. The Spanish rider seems to have cracked wholesalely on the climb. Zaina may be in a little bit of trouble too here as he rides alongside Ugramov. A massive crowd again on the Mortirolo to watch the riders touring the Dolomites. And this will probably be remembered as one of the hardest stages in recent years in the Giro d'Italia. Two riders in front. The man trying to recover the pink jersey he's held for a lot of this year's tour. Ivan Gotti trying to win a stage at last, having taken second place yesterday. Gotti turned pro back in 1991, by the way. 30 seconds, but more importantly, it's a minute 10 now, between 1 minute 40 rather, between Tonkov and Gotti and Olano, and that's more than enough for the pink jersey to return to the shoulders of the Russian. Ivan Gotti content to ride at the front, and very often that's the way with climbers. And look at this, a salute to the crowd here from Tonkov. At least I think it was a salute, but he's certainly emphasizing the fact that he is now clear of Abraham. I think he was waving at the Spanish supporters there to saying, I've dropped him and it's going to be my tour now, as they go over the top of the Mortirolo. Gotti wants the crowd out of his way so he can see the descent. 35 seconds pass by. Ugramov comes over with Zaina. No sign yet of Abraham Olano. It's going to be over a minute, I think. The descent of the Mortirolo has begun. And what a great feeling it must be for Tonkov now in company with Ivan Gotti. Surely if he gets to the finish, Tonkov is not going to deny Gotti his first ever win as a pro bike rider. 2 minutes and 22 seconds. The cheers and the waves are a little bit meek there for the world champion Abraham Olano, because surely now he has lost the Giro d'Italia. And Gotti taking no chances on the descent as Tonkov gets control of the reins. Just on 50 kilometers an hour, around about 30 miles an hour for the way down. There's no real hills left in this year's Giro d'Italia now. It's a slightly uphill finish. The Gay-Wiz teammates, Berzin, the big loser again, almost 10 minutes down at the top of the Mortirolo for Berzin. So after yesterday's blowout, clearly today he's decided to call it quits. The pink jersey of Abraham Olano, well, he would have to take some extreme risk on the descent now, dangerous as they are, if he was going to put himself back in contention. But I really believe he knows now he's lost this year's Giro d'Italia. Second in the Tour of Spain. A high finish, but not the winning position, is going to have to be his lot this time around in the Tour of Italy. Back up with the two leaders, and still Gotti dangles off the back of Tonkov. They've got 47 seconds over the Zaina-Ugramov tandem. So they're more or less locked at the same time gap. Gotti not clearly the careless descender of Tonkov, having to make up ground when the road permits. This is the other two behind at round about 47 seconds. And Zaina doing himself no disservice at all here by this another great escape, because he is going to continue his ascent up the overall classification. He's gaining time on Olano. Ugrimov is already behind him overall. He'll have to watch out for the escape of Gotti, but you know, realistically, Zaina could be looking at second place overall by the end of today. That's a tremendous performance by him. Two great days in the mountains. Well, the gradient not too much to worry about now. And Tonkov, almost a smile on his face there, but the gap is coming down. It's only 30 seconds, Zaina Ugrimov. And that will confirm Zaina's ascent to possibly the runner-up slot overall. Off the mountains too for the pink jersey, but off his shoulders will come the Maglia Rosa. There's no doubt about that now. He's dangling some 2.5 minutes back. Tonkov, having made the running down the descent at 10 kilometers to go, quite happy once again to sit on the back wheel of Ivan Gotti. 27 years of age, Gotti turned professional back in 1991. And young Olano, the rider who won so well the World Road Race Championship on an enormously difficult course in Duitama in Colombia, now finding he's been pushed into the back of the Giro d'Italia by an inspired climb, largely by Gotti, but certainly Tonkov had to really suffer to hold his wheel, and he did just that. The flotilla of team cars around the Maglia Rosa and world champion. Only 5 kilometers left to go now, and Tonkov knows with every turn of those pedal revs he is going to ride back into the pink jersey. Ivan Gotti is going to climb higher up the overall classification. Tonkov, who won 3 stages in Italy of the Settimana Bergamasca this year, and also a stage of the Tour of Romandy, now set to win the biggest race of his career at 27. He turned pro, in fact, a year later than Ivan Gotti. This is the face of a man who always suffers and always gets good results, Pyotr Ugrimov. Well, by his own admission, Olano says he's not a great mountain climber, but these last 2 days he's hung in there pretty well. But there is just one mountain too far. The Col de Mortarolo has cracked him. Tonkov, followed by Gotti. Inside the last couple of kilometers to the finishing line now. You can almost see the smirk on the face of Pavel Tonkov. And the gap has gone up again, so he's had a good last few kilometres. 1:08 now to the other two, and 1:55 to Olano. Olano himself is closing in, so he's not giving up at all. He's closing in, but it's not going to come soon enough to save that pink jersey. And tomorrow should be a formality for Tonkov if all goes according to plan on the road into Milan. Tonkov set now to become only the second Russian rider ever to win the Giro. Evgeny Berzin said before the start of this race that a Russian rider would win the event, but I think he was implying himself rather than Tonkov. And it's not to be. In fact, it's again with his teammate Ivan Gotti, who's had his day here today. Almost 8 hours. So they spent the best part of 15 hours cycling in the Dolomites these past 2 days in this viciously cruel tailpiece. And the man who's going to get his first ever pro win is sprinting clear. There'll be no resistance from Tonkov. He will give this to Ivan Gotti. It was Gotti's attack that did all of the damage on the climb of the Mortarolo. And now Ivan Gotti, having turned professional in 1991, gets his first ever pro win. A yellow jersey in the Tour de France by a day, now a stage winner in the Giro. A two-arm salute from him, a two-arm salute from Pavel Tonkov, who knows now, barring accidents, he has won the Giro d'Italia. This is the race for third place. Pyotr Ugrimov and Enrico Zaina. Zaina himself, if it all works out now, could be second overall tonight, and that'll give him second in Milan tomorrow. And Ugrimov, who's done so much of the work, I wonder if Zaina is going to allow Pyotr. He is. He gets the third place, almost a minute back. And then comes Zaina, and now in fifth place. And what a fight back too, because he has closed in that little bit. The pink jersey of Abraham Olano He knows he's lost it now. Look at the gap. It really widened, in fact, over those last 3 kilometres. It's going out to 2 minutes plus and almost 3 minutes now. So Abraham Olano has lost in a big way today in this second stage in the Dolomites, while Tonkov is watching as he crosses the line. 2:52 down and out of the top 2 certainly overall. And there we are, a no-handed ride here for Pavel Tonkov. Straightened himself up for the victory. No resistance either when Ivan Gotti's gone clear. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if Tonkov hadn't have indicated to Gotti that the stage win was his a long way down the road in appreciation of what he's done today. And that's the way it works in professional racing. One guy gets the stage win, the other one gets the overall victory. 2 rivals on the day and 2 friends as well. And this is the second man getting ready for the 2-arm salute. The last time I recall this happening was in Barcelona for the Olympic Games, when the 3 medalists all did 2-arm salutes. And of course the winner then, the late Fabio Casatelli. So for the Paneria man, Pavel Tonkov, these are happy moments indeed. For Ivan Gotti, after all of those years of trying, he gets the stage win. But overall, look at this. Tonkov now leading Enrico Zaina by 2:43. Olano still hoping for a place on the podium is 3rd. Ugrimov, 3 seconds back, is 4th. All smiles for Pavel Tonkov. He must have thought he lost it after the time trial and the day in the mountains, but he's got it back now. And so to Milano and the finish of the 79th Giro d'Italia, 176 kilometres from Sondrio, taking the riders down to Sempione Park in the heart of Milan. And no contours, of course, to worry the riders. It's all downhill now for the finishers. And as we join the action in the park, it is the final lap and the race is more or less all together. But of course, there are those who think they can win and they're on the attack. And one of the riders here trying to push home is Andrei Teteriuk, once a stage winner of the Kellogg's Tour of Britain in Coventry, in Great Britain. And by the way, we see Saiko here at the front, but Mario Cipollini certain not to win the stage today because he didn't start in the time trial a few days ago. He'll be off preparing now for the Tour de France, his next big event, and then the Olympic Games. His little breakaway getting clear of the field. You can bet your life that Pavel Tonkov will have no interest in it at all. Teteriuk is in this move too, so too is Sergei Uchikov, the little Russian guy. And the Roslotto rider there is Sivakov, and the other man is Nicolas Loda. And so as they start the sprint for the line here, it looks to me as though Uchikov is going to come through in the centre of the picture. There's 5 of them in the hat for the victory. And a sprint on the right by Teteriuk. He's on our left now as you look, but it's all too late. Uchikov gets it right on the line, and he finished just in front of the Roslotto rider Sivakov. And that's the best place he's ever had in a big international stage race. And barely a few seconds have passed by. The sprint from the main field for 6th place, and it looks as though at last Adriano Baffi just getting through and getting a sprint win. Well, sort of anyway. He was 17 seconds off the pace today. Uchikov of Russia getting the victory, a stage winner. You may remember he beat Lance Armstrong last year it was, in a stage at Revel in the Tour de France. Overall, the final result, Pavel Tonkov becomes the 2nd Russian to win the Giro d'Italia by 2 minutes and 43 seconds over Zaina. The favourite, Abraham Olano, in the end had to be content with 3rd place. He couldn't handle the Dolomites. But he walks up, immediately congratulates Pavel Tonkov. This has been a great tour, and those last 4 days, well, they were full of suspense. I hope you've enjoyed it, and until the next time, goodbye.